All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. A little bit of an extended break there, but we are here into the finals. Mr. Shane Gutcher's very camera shy. Oh, there he is. It's munching on some Cheez-Its there.
Yeah,
So,
I was eating.
you know, we
We
went over to Zoya TV, and we saw ourselves the other semifinals game. Wildfire, RGe APM. Oh my God, what a game! You know,
Yes.
a little bit of murder there on top of his voice, but at the same time, man, phenomenal stuff. Big love to him. He also threw the finals over to us. He's giving away 1 or 2 beta keys, and guys, you should be following him anyways because he's really big in this scene. He's now part of Tempo Storm as well, man.
Kind of a big deal. Yep. And
Yeah.
congratulations to him for that. He's the new manager of Tempo Storm, a new team that lost to Wildfire.
Unfortunately
Wildfire?
today, yeah.
Wildfire, good job on their part. They played well. They ended up beating them. And then Wildfire ended up losing to RGE, a team I don't know anything about. You're a little bit more familiar with them, Sean. You've casted them a handful of times. I know they're on the bracket. They are sporting the Canadian flag, so it looks like they're also a Canadian team as well. I don't know if they're all Canadian or just a majority. So a rather unknown team have come to the finals to face Evil Geniuses, and I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm happy that stuff like this is happening. I'm glad that teams are kind of just coming out of nowhere and beating other well-established teams. I'm glad that's happening. I think it's good for the competitive scene overall.
Absolutely, yeah. And RG, as I said, they've now been here at least 2 weeks of tournaments, but they've been practicing before that because they were trying to do entries before. And we got draft up. So let's jump into it. What can RGE do up against the big name of Evil Geniuses? Well, we saw what they did up against ESV Wildfire. Perhaps they have a hidden card up their sleeve. But on your left-hand side, the boys in blue, they're going to be banning out the Nazebo first round. And this is a repeat ban compared to last game as well. And they just do not like dealing with that Witch Doctor. And the flip side, it's going to be a Tychus.
Could you give me a 4-digit number, please?
Oh, I definitely can. I'm sorry. I thought I told you what it was. And bam. Oh,
Boosh, got it. The Nazebo ban that's the second Nazebo ban in a row from Evil Geniuses. They banned it against ESV Tempest and their semifinals match we just got done casting about half an hour ago. So they don't like facing that Nazebo at all. Don't want to deal with it. And the Stitches ban coming out from RGE. Stitches made it to the second round of the draft. Holy cow. That's the first time I've seen that in a very long time. But Stitches nonetheless being picked up. Stitches and Arthas. So double warrior coming out from RGE here.
Oh, man. You're still not reading these correctly.
I'm sorry. I just got into it late and I saw 3 heroes and was explaining what I have. Did Evil Geniuses have first pick?
Yeah, so they first picked the Tassadar. That's a very signature kind of pick for them. Flip side, Arthas Vala, a very strong first round of picks. Definitely for any team because they get a great frontliner with a great ranged DPS. ZP's, once again, going to be on this Zeratul. He's actually favoring him over the Kerrigan on Dragonshire, looking for some of those VP combos. And to go with that will be the Uther. And then, as we did say, the flip side will be the double tank frontline of the Stitches.
And following up the double tank line with the Stitches and Arthas is a Sergeant Hammer pickup. So Sergeant Hammer is a hero who we've seen a big boom in recently. We used to only really see her on Dragonshire. Now we're seeing teams experiment more with her on other maps where she was otherwise considered weaker on, and with varying levels of success. So Sergeant Hammer is definitely making a big surge up into the ranks of the meta for a lot of these North American teams here. What I want to know is, are we going to continue, to see this trend of double supports coming up? Tempo Storm did it today and ended up losing with it on Sky Temple to ESV Wildfire. We saw it a handful of times last night in Kings of the Storm. Are we going to see that here in the finals of this ESL Go4 Pro or Go4 Heroes, or are we going to just stick to business as usual with just the single support? So I'm excited to see if Evil Geniuses are going to pull anything like that out. However, they're going with a very familiar composition here, Sean. This is almost an identical composition to what they ran the last match or against Heroes Hype, except the fall stab was who was that fall stab? It was a different assassin. I think it was a Vala is what that was. So they have a composition that has a lot of just like front end damage with the Hinterlands Blast, setting it up with the Void Prison, the damage coming out from the Archon, and the initiation coming out from the Judgment on the Tyrael. So there is their draft rounded out for you. The follow-up pickup is going to be the Rhaegar from RGE. So we're seeing Rhaegar for the second time today. the first time casting RGE, first time casting them with Rhaegar. So they could have picked up a Brightwing, they could have picked up Malfurion, and they said no, going with the Shaman.
The Shaman has a huge amount of throughput throughout the entire game. His shields will bounce around. You're healing 3 targets at once. You get yourself the healing totem at level 1 as well. The only character in this draft to pick up a level 1 healing ward. I mean, it will be a level 4 there for the Tassadar on the flip side for Evil Geniuses, but you can actually have some phenomenal healing games there for the Rhaegar, and he's feeling very safe as well. Yes. There's no Arthas on the enemy team. There's no Nazebo on the enemy team. There's no Stitches, and Stitches is one absolutely great way to stop a fight dog from doing his thing. So if the Rhaegar sits in the back and he has, this actually even might be, I don't think it will be, but they have a good case for a Bloodlust. I mean, they got a hammer and they got a Vala in the back.
Now that I'm looking at the draft in its whole, I love this Rhaegar pickup, because remember how I said this draft from Evil Geniuses looks so familiar? It was almost the exact same draft we saw versus Heroes hype, except the fall stat was a Vala Demon Hunter. Now they have a fall stat. This is the draft. Last time I saw this draft, I said this is all about killing the hammer.
Yep.
They would go in there with the Judgment. They would go in there with the Void Prison. This lineup has Hinterland's Blast. The other one had the Reign of Vengeance. Right. Obviously, whoever's playing the Tassadar, more than likely Idra is just going to be sitting there laying down the Blanket Storms and right-clicking. But this draft is all about initiating onto obviously anyone who they see, but specifically to the Sergeant Hammer, and taking that Sergeant Hammer out of the fight before she can achieve absolutely anything. And it's going to be very good. You have so many different ways of locking down that Sergeant Hammer with a Void Prison. You have the Judgment, follow it up with a Divine Storm into a Hinterland's Blast, and that's going to be a dead Sergeant Hammer. One of the best ways to deal with big single target burst in this game right now is Ancestral Healing Rhaegar. That's why that Rhaegar was picked up, because they know what Evil Geniuses is doing. They read Evil Geniuses like a book. They said, let's pick up this Rhaegar. Let's go ahead and try to counter-initiate their single target initiation from Ancestral Healing. Keep that hammer up. All of a sudden, Evil Geniuses has no big bruiser in the front line besides the Tyrael, and they can turn that team fight around. I love the drafting from RGE. That's some next level stuff, if it turns out that's what they're doing. But we're in the game here, ladies and gentlemen. The gates are going down as we speak. The boys in blue are your blue team on the left side of your map. LZ Gamer on Tyrael, Idra on Tassadar, ZP on the Zeratul, Kawaii Rice on Uther, and Faye on the Falstad.
And on the flip side, the team that have now had the repeat pleasure of casting into the bottom lane, Bella Morte, Pen, Glissa. We got Sage there hitting in the mid, and of course, Falatarin into the top. Now, this is a team that just beat a team that beat Tempo Storm.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing day of matches today. A few upsets going back and forth, and best of ones, maybe not the best way to go for some of these, but at the same time, this final is going to be a best of 3, so this is where we're going to be testing the mettle of RG and their comps. Dragonshire on this map, we talk about this a lot. It's all about the hammer, and coming down into the bottom lane is EG. They're looking for that kill, but they're not going to be very successful in this 4-man cake. In fact, they barely actually hit any of the hit points at all from RG.
Yeah, that was well done by them. They were quick to react to that rotation. They recognized the rotation. ZP's roaming around. It looks like a possibly Uther Zeratul roam, which is very interesting. The Zeratul roam's pretty common, but to see Uther doing it, I think Uther's just floating as a support wherever he needs to go, really. Bottom lane, though, a Rhaegar Hammer Stitches. That's one hell of a lane to deal with, and that's why Evil Geniuses is putting so much emphasis. Idra is pushing out that middle lane. The moment it's pushed out, he rotates bottom and helps out his compadres in the bottom lane, which is something we see all the time on a Tassadar on this map. Push the middle lane, rotate to bottom, push the middle lane. And he's doing that to a great effect right now.
Well, RGE did successfully capture both of the shrines, but it's not going to be a lot of pressure there in the mid for picking up that Dragon Knight. It's actually just going to be Idra standing guard. We have a little bit of back and forth into from the middle into the bottom, but they're not really getting much done. And Hammer has actually started hammering away at some of these turrets into the bottom lane, so they're not looking so hot. LZ Gamer to the top should, with this support, be able to capture, and that will negate the dragon pressure. But still, bottom lane damage is starting to rack up.
Oh, fall up here in the top lane with Arthas. I think he is going to be our first blood. A good rotation, once again, from that Uther Zeratul, a little bit of an unconventional roaming combination, but obviously potent nonetheless, securing themselves the first blood. Not only the first blood, they got the experience from the first blood, and now RGE is missing out on soak for top lane, so that's going to translate into a tower going down. That is a big experience boost for Evil Geniuses. Well done by them. Meanwhile, bottom lane, RGE is trying to make up some ground by pushing these towers down.
Yeah, and it's going to be up to them to kind of make that trade. They need the experience back. They didn't have anyone actually rotate to the top, so the soak from Valitaran was not there. And you can see that advantage now being pressed here as we're looking for our level 7 coming up from Evil Geniuses. But those towers are going to make up a lot of it in the bottom because there's absolutely no more gate here, and there is no response whatsoever to Pen on the hammer. Now, Pen in the last game that we just saw over on Zoya TV was actually the Nazebo, and the Nazebo was the big fan here. So he definitely likes to be playing out some of those siege, but Valitaran, he's getting body blocked. The three-man sandwich is once more a dead Lich King in the top.
So once again, they're going to be losing the soak, the top lane. That's a really big deal when you're a solo laner. If you go down, you lose that experience soak, an entire wave, maybe even more. And that's a big deal. We see how it's translated for Evil Geniuses, now up an entire level from it. Level 7 is here. Seeing the level 7 talents looks like standard across the board. No crazy shenanigans coming out with EG, just normal standard play, which is something we would expect from a team with players like Idra on it. So cleanse on Uther, I like it. They're going to be able to deal with any of the crowd control. I said control CC, a little redundant there. The crowd control coming out from them. They do have both the shrines, and there's our first Dragon Knight of the match right here at the 4-minute mark.
Glissa just going to get punted away. Bad dog just down.
Field goal.
Yeah, field goal. A little bit of a deviation, actually, I do see here. We do got the bribe on the false stance, so they actually valued the bribe over the power throw today. They're not going to try to match out the hammer range with their own. And at the same time, Angelic Absorption there for the Tyrael, as Rhaegar is absolutely going to go down in that front line. So the Angelic Absorption is the other thing that we see usually is amplified healing, but they don't go with that. He actually goes with his own healing. Probably just for the dueling into the top. But, you know, what did Idra get done with this Dragon Knight? Well, he killed out the fight dog, and he almost took a tower.
They probably are going to get this tower, I think. No, okay, well, they are going to get it pretty quick. One Silent Storm, down it goes. And that's going to give them a huge window of opportunity as they are well ahead of RGE right now. Pen was taking some harassment damage top. He boosts himself away, though. But they're level 10 before RGE is even at level 9. So this is a great opportunity, playing very smart, playing well. They're rotating appropriately. The big reason why they have such a good momentum going into the mid game here is because of those 2 kills onto the solo lane. Arthas translating into a discrepancy of missing wave experience and also the 2 towers going down. Meanwhile, bottom lane, Evil Geniuses continuing to show great game sense and what's going on. Able to go down to the bottom lane, recognizing they were getting those ogres and ended up getting a kill. They didn't get the ogres, but they did get a kill onto the Rhaegar, further pushing their advantage. Yeah,
they blew up the Rhaegar. We had a VP go down, the Hinterland Blast, and the Archon. Everything came together there to absolutely destroy the fight dog. And I didn't actually see that invade going down. I was checking out the top, so I do apologize on that guard. Pen, very likely to drop, but the concussive actually was enough to keep ZPs at bay. And now, unfortunately, the gate is gone, which means that, yeah, Pen, he's in a big danger zone into this top lane. And he could have actually got judgmented in with ZPs right there, but they didn't go for the kill. They kept it nice and safe. We're still looking for heroics here on an RGe APM, and that is finally going to ding. But what do they get? The strafe. It is going to be an ancestral on top of that, army, gorge, and napalm. So very well called there at the beginning.
Yep, and this is a very key point for them, as now they have the tools. This is what they drafted around, was specifically for that big counter initiation through. I mean, it's kind of, you can call it a counter initiation when a team blows all of their single target abilities into one person and all of a sudden they don't die. So it's kind of it in that sense, but it just really helps turn around any team fight with ancestral healing, and they have such a good ability to turn around team fights. Their draft is built around it, Sean, with the Arthas and the Stitches, who have such an insane amount of sustainability on both of those heroes, followed up with the healing and the backline damage, allowing Hammer to just sit there and go ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk on them. I really am interested to see how these team fights play out, because it's going to be a dance. It's definitely going to be a dance for both of these teams. If Evil Geniuses doesn't get their target down quickly, they're going to run out of gas, they're going to get counter-initiated on, and just get absolutely rolled over. But at the same time, they have so much burst that there's a good chance they will be able to get the damage out onto one person going down.
Idra and Sage just kind of a little duel into the top, but it's mostly just Idra looking for the position on top of that shrine. Looks like he will grab it as we still dance our way around the bottom. And Glissa in the front line, that's not where you want to be. The 1-2 punch. Rhaegar once again is going to drop. Teammates, unfortunately, just powerless inside that Void Prison. We don't have a Valley here as well, which means that, you know, without that healer, the frontliners, they're not going to get the support they need, and Stitches is actually going to go the way of the Dodo there as well. 13-11 for the engage, and that's also now going to put us into a good position here for a Dragon Knight, because Glissa, Sage is just not in position to stop it, and that's going to be Idra once more coming down the mid.
So Evil Geniuses did exactly what they drafted to do, and that's just blow someone up. That's the second time they've done it. They did it to the Rhaegar, they've done it to the Stitches. They're going to continue to do it here with the Dragon Knight, and that was a 4v4 situation right there, as the Tassadar and Vala were top lane duking it out. But Evil Geniuses continuing into the mid game. They got themselves a second Dragon Knight. Not much coming from it quite yet. Don't know if they're just waiting for the rest of the team to consolidate together, if they're just going to, they're just going to stay in 3 lanes, continue to soak, to continue to get an experience advantage, continue to get a map control advantage through taking these forts down. So they're just playing to the objectives, and they're playing smart. They're not making any big overextensions, and it's really going to start just the advantages that they're getting just keep proportionally getting bigger and bigger with how they're playing so far.
Once you get ahead, you just get more ahead, and that's a very famous StarCraft quote, which Idra should definitely be very familiar with here. But you know, they went mid, they got some damage in, they went top, they got themselves that fort. Glissa was actually trying to deal with Faye into the bottom lane, who was actually poised to take this fort, basically uncontested, just due to the relentless pressure that Falstead's been put in there. And you know, if a team fight breaks out somewhere, Falstead can just fly on up. So really good stuff coming out from Evil Geniuses. 2 levels, almost 3 now ahead. Next team fight will be close to the 16 mark, if not past it. And well, it looks like that we're going to try for the best right now. VP again onto the back. Glissa and Glissa Ben gets stuck. The Stitches goes down once more to the 1-2 punch. Ancestral on top of the pen, but that's not really the big target that you want to be focusing here. It's going to be Glissa now on the run, but it's not going to be enough. Uther with that line of healing in the back gets the kill. ZPs takes out the Vala as well. Sergeant Hammer becomes a sandwich between the Evil Geniuses boys, and once more, it's just not a team fight that RGE had a chance at.
Yep, that Void Prison is taking Rhaegar completely out of the fight, and they're just targeting whoever's in front of them. Originally, I think their idea was to focus on the Sergeant Hammer, but once they saw that Rhaegar pick, they just made a small shift in their tactics, and a hook on a Quiet Rice here. The Evil Geniuses is following through with this. LZ Gamer trying to back up his buddy with the cast aside. He's kind of body blocking him, and he needs to get out of the way there, LZ. He is going to be able to get him out of the way, and they're going to continue the push. Nope, they're going to let Siege Ogres do a little cleanup duty. But what I was trying... Oh, man, another hook. Good lord. Come on there, Bella from Twilight. Anyways, moving on. They shifted their tactics a little bit, and it's been paying off for them very well. Taking the Rhaegar out of the fight with the Void Prison, with the amount of burst that they have, single target burst that they have after the Void Prison is laid out on the Rhaegar, that person is going to go down when Rhaegar is in a Void Prison. That's exactly what they've done every single time, and that's why we've seen them be so successful so far in this match.
Well, we are going to get some bruiser support to go into the top lane, but if you take a quick look, you know, the top gate, not even hurt here for Evil Geniuses. Mid, looking pristine. Bottom, doesn't have a gate, but the fort is unscathed at this point. We have not really, on the back of this Sergeant Hammer pressure, we haven't really been able to capitalize a lot on any kind of siege damage. And that's a big advantage. You know, even if Evil Geniuses get team wiped somehow, they have such a buffer between any kind of game-ending pushes. I mean, they can afford to slip up at this point, and it is their game literally to lose right now.
Absolutely is. Man, we're seeing them come out of this choke point here. They have to be careful. ZP is right in the back line. He's looking for a Void Prison. See, they're going to continue to keep up what has been so successful for him, just Void Prisoning the Rhaegar and blowing up whoever's in front of their face. Good hook on the LZ. There's the Judgment. There is the Void Prison, but the Rhaegar is up. He doesn't even get a chance to use the Ancestral Healing. Stitches goes down immediately, followed up by that, but Void Prison is down. Strength is going down as well. This might be a good turnaround. This is what I was talking about. Idra's so low, but he's able to stay up with the Dimensional Shift. There's the Ancestral. They're going to keep him up. ZP's got to be careful. He's going to get taken out. This right here is RGE's opportunity to get themselves back into this game. They're even down a talent point, Sean, and they're still turning this fight around. Quiet Rice trying to get himself out. No, he is going to go down as well. So a 2-for-1 exchange. RGE showing signs of life. This is a great opportunity for them to get themselves back in this.
it's more impressive that, they were able to actually do a really good fight, despite the fact that they're 3 levels down, despite the fact they don't have those 16 talents. But something I didn't actually bring up last time we saw this, but this is twice in a row now. EG has taken holy shock on lower level 16 talents. Yeah, that's 2 games in a row. But we also see Idra now down here. That's going to be probably it for him. But, it's really hard to kill out a Tastar. Between the progressions, between the dimensional shift, there it is, the second dimensional. The second void due to the dimensional. And, it's just ridiculously hard to kill a Tastar, even 3-on-1. But it's so much easier to kill with Vala. Where did Vala even die? Top.
I think it was top lane with the with LZ. Okay.
Well,
Vala going down right now.
We were too focused on the Idra. Yeah.
I know. Come on, Idra. God. I feel like the Holy Shock is just putting more emphasis on single target damage. I mean, the blood for blood, that's pretty standard on Tyrael, though. The Holy Shock, though, that's really going just like single target, single target, single target.
It's 2 in a row,
Take someone out of the match. And so far, it's with the exception of last team fight, it worked out well for him. Here is another Void Prison onto the Stitches and the Hammer. So Hammer's caught out. There's the Ancestral Healing. Immediately, too much burst damage, though. Good Lord. The preemptive Ancestral Healing's not going to be enough. Followed up with the Stitches going down. That was a 2-for-0 exchange as they were down their Demon Hunter. So not necessarily the best fight to take, but when you're inside of a Void Prison, you really don't have a choice. It just kind of gets forced on you.
And that's exactly why you see Zeratul now more prevalent. That's why ZPs has literally just been playing Zeratul. The last 3 tournaments I've casted him, it's either Kerrigan or Zeratul, or unfortunately the one game of ETC that actually cost them the game series. But yeah. ZPs is very much on point. It's a really good pickup here for Evil Geniuses, but they still need to seal the deal here for game number 1. They're still 3 levels up. We do got those 16s though for RGE. Can they use them for defense? Blood for blood, Stone Skin, the Pulverize. It's been very much a slam build through and through. Minefield and the Earth Grasp Totem. I'm not entirely too sure we're going to see a lot of use with that Earth Grasp.
It will give them some, more crowd control. I agree. I don't know if that's necessarily what they need, though. It's not like that's why they're losing these team fights. It's all about just trying to survive through that single target burst. Unlike that last team fight, that Ancestral Healing went down on 10. He was at full HP, and then he just died to the overdrive Hinterland's Blast from Falstad. One thing that they need to be worrying about is over here on Falstad, he has 6 stacks of Gathering Power. Zeratul, he only has 2, but the Hinterland's Blast with 6 stacks of Gathering Power on top of an Overdrive Hinterland's Blast, that's what happens. Team fight down here. There's an initiation on the Bella. I don't know if he's going to look up alive. That Ancestral is on time. The Void Prison, it looks like that's going to be a disengage poison. Yep, that's going to be a disengage Void Prison. They hit that. They're running away. I think LZ is going to be, he's going to be left to be going down there. So another fight going well for RGE. Not the biggest exchange by any means. They only got 1 person off of that. But at this point in the stage, they need everything they can get. At this stage in the game, they need everything they can get.
Man, Epic Mount. I've not seen a Falstad take anything except Epic Mount since he was introduced to this game. It's such a useful talent. So My God, the map presence that you're allowed at level 20 due to it is phenomenal, especially on a map where Faye can literally go to the top lane, get the shrine, and immediately fly bottom and basically get the shrine again. It's phenomenal talent. But 20's basically on the board. It is the 1 bolt here from the Zeratul because nobody likes the allied Void Prison. Nobody ever takes that whatsoever. But the Angel of Justice increases the range on top of the Judgment, reduces the cooldown, doesn't increase the damage. And it's been a while since that damage nerf is settled in, but it does not actually dissuade the popularity of the pick. And the Divine Hurricane. So now, you blink in, you wormhole in, you get off the VP, Uther runs in with the sprint, holy shock somebody, and it's just a gigantic hurricane. Or conversely, you just have that extra range on the Judgment to set it all up. There's a lot of tools here for Evil Geniuses just to deal with RGE, and that's why they've been predominantly ahead in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the Ancestral Healing's just, he has to be so, Glissa on the Rhaegar has to just be so fast about it. If he's a millisecond off of it, people are going to be going down with the just so much single target damage coming out from him. And now that it's level 20, as you just mentioned, it's compounded even more with the Archon. I've almost said Dark Archon, the Twilight Archon. The Darkon, the Darshan, I don't know. Anyways, but Evil Geniuses with level 20 getting themselves a 16-minute Dragon Knight. This is nothing to look down on here, guys, because this is a strong Dragon Knight. He's up for 1 minute and 15 seconds. This duration on this Dragon Knight. And they're going to get these fort towers. Not a big deal at this stage of the game. further constricting RGE inside of their base. But I think their big goal here is going to try to get this keep down. LZ is in the back line. He's looking for a judgment here. He's got the extra range, the lower cooldown. He can be a little bit more liberal with it.
Yeah, I don't really think we're going to be looking for a big fight, at least not from the EG side, because Faye split pushing into the top. I mean, she has been up there for a good while. You don't see any towers in there whatsoever. So it's basically just a split push. They're looking to just secure themselves a route into those keeps if they do get themselves that big team fight. But Idra still has 30 seconds left on the Dragon, still trying to do his best here with those flames. And they're coming in. Kawhi Rice actually going to set up. And there goes Bella once more, dead in the water after that big burst combo. The VP in the back on top of Pen and Glissa. No recourse whatsoever. The knockback from the Dragon Knight. Idra's going to come out here, and I want to say he actually popped the Archon there. But it looked like he grew in size, but it turns out he didn't. That was just a little strange. But one kill for none, but still, the gates are down for top and for the mid. Next Dragon Knight is going to be basically unfettered in its access to these keeps.
Yeah, I mean, with bottom lane being exposed, mid lane. Oh, there's a judgment down to bottom lane. Glissa, see ya, man. You got to be careful about that, guys. When they have this much initiation single target damage, and this stage of the game, getting caught out of just being that slightly outside of your base, you're going to get picked off like this. This is going to get this keep down middle lane for sure, Sean. That's going to give them almost 2 lanes of racks. I've been watching too much Dota recently. 2 lanes that keeps for them. Sage almost getting blown up by these double singularity bombs plus the Gathering Powering stacks. And that's why we see Gathering Power, man. Once you get 6 stacks of them, which ZP still only has 4, so there's still even more potential for single target burst damage from them. But once you get 2 heroes like Zeratul and Falstad, both with full stacks of Gathering Power, it's so much single target burst. Even the Ancestral Healing from Rhaegar, we've only seen it really work out once, and that was the fight over here by the Bruisers on the side of RGE's map. Yeah, the fight. Yeah, exactly. The fight that they won, and it wasn't like a convincing win. The only kill they got was the LZ, and you need more than that whenever you do something like that. It was a very good defensive Void Prison put down by ZP. They just said, you know what, LZ, you're sorry, man, but we're going to get out of here, and this team fight is going to go nowhere nearly as badly as it would otherwise. And Evil Genius is about to pull a SMG rip and sweep down here in the bottom lane.
All right, level 20, though. Level 20 for RGE, so they are finally on that same talent tier. Took them a while, and they're 2.5 levels down by the end of it all. But double Bolt, the Storm Shield, Legion of Northrend, and the Advanced Lava Strike. So nothing really untowards there, but you know, going back and forth, it's still very much RGE. They're on the back foot. I hope Pen's actually not AFK there in that Bruiser game, but double bombs coming out on top of Glissa. He's actually even going to throw down that healing ward. That could cost them in the long run. The hook on top of Idra, he doesn't care. He has himself the Void Shift ready to go. Still has the Dimensional Shift in his pocket as well. The automatic 15% activation. But all the talents are basically on the table, and double Shrine pressure from EG. They're gotta force this fight mid.
Yeah, if EG get this Dragon Knight here with 2 lanes being exposed, the game is over. And they're just playing delay tactics right now, because look at bottom lane, Sean. They got 2 catapults, 2 siege ogres chunking away at the core. It's already taking hull damage. RGE recognizes this. They're forcing the issue middle lane. They got to do something to do it quick. Void Prison followed by Judgment. Glissa is in that Void Prison. There's no Ancestral Healing, but the turnaround from RGE. This is their moment. LZ able to get away with Eldrimmer's Mic. Wire Ice lays down a defensive Hurricane, but I don't know if it needs it. He's just doing it defensively to get himself away there, so no one going down. But again, Evil Geniuses are okay with this trade. We got Ogres hitting your core right now. It's down to 80%. They're just doing more delay tactics. They might just win this game right here. Yeah, RGE is in such an awful situation right now.
Fala figured it out.
Okay. Good job, Fala. But now this enables Evil Geniuses to reinitiate once again here, Sean. Down goes Arthas. Down goes Stitches. No more Resurgence for you guys. Sorry, they're going to be down for upwards of a minute. Evil Geniuses know this game is in their hands. Those bullheaded minds being a pain in the ass, though. And there's the Ancestral Healing keeping them alive. Don't know if it's going to be able to do much here, but I think this is the end for RGE. No matter what's going on here top, there's a Judgment going down, but look on the mini-map in the middle lane. There is a 21-minute Dragon Knight going down, and he's going to finish off the court.
Sergeant Hammer is very, very much hounded, and between the 3 EG boys, they're just able to take the kill eventually. But doesn't matter, as you said, because Kawhi Rice was here. Those catapults really bringing down that core, removing the shield on top of it as well. Just too much for RGE to handle, as it turns out, in the end of it. And it will be the EG victory in this game 1 of the best of 3. So congratulations to them. They are putting a point on the board, and they're going to keep that momentum rolling here into game number 2. But, you know, the draft-wise, RGE had a pretty solid draft, but this is something that I keep saying. The dangers of taking a Sergeant Hammer that early just leads you into the counter picks. And there's a few different things that really just kind of, pooped on her day repeatedly. One of them being the Zeratul Void Prison. He has the stealth. The mines won't activate when he walks over them if he is invisible. The double bombs really chunks down her health. The VPs were absolutely amazing from ZPs. The other is, of course, just the frontline burst. Like that charge could have gone on to anybody, and then the follow-up there from the hinterlands. Like it was just too perfect a setup for EG. They had a really good way to just burst down people. Very rarely did the fights, they weren't 5v5. They were essentially blow up someone and then a 4v5 every single time.
Looking back on the draft, I mentioned it, the Rhaegar pick and why it was picked up, and that's exactly how they tried utilizing it. But it just got the Void Prison from ZP. He shifted it from using it as a initiation tool specifically to using it as a control tool for Glissa. There was a couple times where he used it. Obviously, if there's a good opportunity to use it for initiation, he's going to use it. But he used it on Glissa. That was obviously his main priority, was making sure that Rhaegar, with Glissa playing Rhaegar, is taken out of the fight. There is no ancestral healing, so that way that Tyrael and Idra on the Tassadar and Falstad can just all hit their R button and go, hey, someone's dead. They did it to every single one of them. They did it to Stitches, they did it to Arthas, they did it to Rhaegar, they did it to Hammer. Whoever was in front of them was dead, especially considering those early kills on the Arthas enabled both Zeratul and Falstad to get them early gathering power stacks. And that's why you see that talent, because it gives you so much, it increases your burst damage percentage-wise, and it's just so many factors that went into them doing it. And I think it came down to the draft. I feel like RGE played pretty well, but just unfortunately their draft got countered a little bit too much, as you mentioned, Sean. The Void Prison just was a little too strong.
Yeah, Protect the Hammer is great if you're going to be pushing, but we almost saw absolutely no push coming out. I mean, the Vala, sure, she had her lane. It was cool. We had them early game pressure in the bottom lane from RGE. They actually had a level advantage for a while. But double ganks on top of the Arthas led EG into a more dominant position. They were 11 by the time we finally hit 9 on top of RGE. And Protect the Hammer is great if you push. If you're stuck on defense, defend the Hammer. It sucks.
Yeah, I've
bad spot.
One thing I mean, the Rhaegar pick made sense. I understand why they picked it, but I feel like maybe they could have picked up a Brightwing and utilized Cleanse as a better way to deal with the burst damage. I think that might have been overall a little bit more effective.
They put too much emphasis on the far side.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I think a different healer, specifically Brightwing with Cleanse, I mean, obviously they couldn't get Uther because it was on EG side, but if they were able to cleanse, it's going to negate the Judgment, it's going to negate the Divine Storm. It's not going to negate the Void Prison, but obviously you would be using it, you would be spamming your cleanse button on whoever they initiate on, and that would have enabled either Sergeant Hammer to boost away and get out of harm's way, Stitches to get out. I think maybe Brightwing would have been a little more effective, even though Ancestral Healing is this big burst of healing, but it has that wind-up time, and when you have that much single target burst, anything with a wind-up time is just too long.
And that's what we saw with the Ancestral, which is the sad truth. But we're going to set up here for game number 2, guys. We're not quite out of it yet. RGe APM do have a chance here to put a point on the board. We're going to find out what the map is, and when we return, game number 2 of our finals here, Go4Heroes Americas Cup number 9, Shane Gucher, FourCourtJester.